Hi, I'm Janice Fogarty, and I'm a communications strategist and consultant. The Connections Coffee Confidence podcast is for professional women entrepreneurs who have established themselves and their business, and they're ready to get serious about using the power of communication to surpass their business goals. On this podcast, I discuss everything from leadership to establishing a business vision to the intricacies of creating messaging, publicity, and more. I speak to women who excel in communications in their business, whatever they do, and get an inside look at how they created a thriving livelihood. So top up your mug and welcome to this week's episode. Hey, and welcome to this episode of Connections, Coffee, and Confidence with me, Janice. This week's episode, it's kind of a quick one. One of those ones that's, it's just as much for me as it is for you. Especially if you have perfectionist tendencies or somewhat of a Superwoman identity. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't doubt for a moment that you actually are a Superwoman. I have a vague idea of what you do, and already I'm impressed. I'd be blown away, I'm sure, if I had the full picture. When I'm writing and recording this, it's still pretty fresh and early in 2022. It's the new year. And while there's still lots of buzz around big plans and playing all out and crushing audacious goals, there's also an undercurrent of being tired. Just feeling a little fuzzy around the edges. I've found it really hard getting back into the swing of things, and I love this stuff. I love my clients, I love my work, I love this podcast. But I was still a bit reluctant to fully step back into it. Before Christmas, I was mindful of my time and energy, so I planned to finish up and just tidy up a few little things. I wanted to leave space for the kids being off school and having some fun with them. And I knew I needed to take some downtime because 2021 was one heck of a year, physically and emotionally. Took a lot out of me, just like I know it did for so many others. So I was a bit protective. I clearly stated that I was closing a week before Christmas, and that was it. I emailed my list and told them they wouldn't hear from me again till the new year, although new episodes would continue to be uploaded so subscribers would be notified, just not by me. Oh, and this is a great time for you to click the subscribe button, because I know you don't want to miss me. Oh, and Spotify now allows you to rate podcasts. So if you're listening there, you can rate me. This is progress, my friends. Anyway, I ended up enrolling in a workshop, agreeing to give and host podcast interviews, and then I decided to do a few other things which just frankly take up time. And I didn't need to do any of them. They were not mission critical. And so there it was. I had fallen into my usual trap of overloading myself. Sound familiar? Do you do that? It's like you have a bit of free time, so sure you can squeeze that one little thing in. And yeah, that other thing too. And you didn't really need all that time, did you? So you might as well just do that one other thing, right? Ugh. So once again, I've had to take stock and look at what I took on and figure the sense of it. I need to look at it in terms of relative value. So this is where having clear brand values, a handle on what generates your money, and a plan of some description is helpful. Of course, I'm going to recommend you have a communications plan. It's me, it's what I do. But really, you just need some sort of a document that will enable you to stay focused on what is going to make the most difference to your business. You want to be clear on the core money-making activities, and those are what will guide you. If you have a business plan, it probably includes some sort of forecasting or a breakdown of what you sell, how many you need to sell, how much money you need to make to break even, and turn a profit. Those items are where you focus your time and energy. When you have them mapped out, they help keep you accountable. You might be inclined to jump into making something sparkly and special because you saw someone else doing it and it looked like it was successful for them, but your plan will tell you if it's something that you have the time, energy, and money for, if it will fit in your business direction. You do not want to create something, a package, a product, a service, if no one will ever think to come to you for it because it is so far removed from your norm. The amount of work needed to get something like that off the ground, well, it's a lot. So your plan can help you reduce the potential for big overwhelm by keeping you focused on making money. And once you have a steady stream of income, once you have that solid foundation, then you can start to put in the systems that will enable you to look at the sparkly things, or to just take more time for yourself. The reason why I suggest a communications plan is because I find so many of us, and yes, us, me included, we waste our time in mindless social media misery. Content creation takes time, and good content creation takes brain power. I've never put up a post that didn't have a purpose, but I question if I've always needed all that I've done. And wow, there is a serious amount of malarkey out there, so I feel like this is a line many others don't always see either. There's quality versus quantity, and we definitely need to keep our quantity up, as people, well, they just don't see everything that we do. If we have a point we need to make, we need to repeat it so that we're heard. But you might be better off taking some of that time and devoting it to getting your message heard through a different activity. If you have a plan, that means you've taken time to think about how best to use your resources, which for many of us is just us. And we need to be careful with ourselves. Do you need to create those 10 posts today, or will you make more impact by doing a live? Will you reach more people by taking an hour and going on a podcast, speaking directly to a new group of people? And if this is something that you're interested in doing, by the way, if this is your year to grow an awareness of you and what you do by getting on podcasts, but you don't know how to start, I have just the thing for you. Go to janisfogarty.com and look for the podcast pitching workshop, or go to the link in the show notes. I promise to show you how I pitch my clients as a PR professional and how, as a podcaster, I want to be pitched. I'll give you the best of both worlds so that you have the best chance at getting yourself out there. So, a plan either for your business, so you know what you're focusing on in terms of projects, or for your communications, so you use your time effectively for the most impact. That plan is key to reducing the overwhelm. And I'm happy to say that my plans did help keep me from swamping myself as I would in years gone by. I knew what my priorities were, and a lot of what I took on related to those priorities. The timing smelled, but that was a judgment call of could I afford to wait, knowing that I needed to do some of these things, that the cost would be higher, or the alternative timing wasn't going to be any better if I waited. Another way I managed the overwhelm was to take a social media break. And I lumped the email in there too. I decided that once I was out of the office, which right now is my dining room, and yeah, I did spend a lot of time in there over Christmas, but you know what I mean. Once I logged out, I was out. I meant it for reals. I didn't open Instagram or Facebook until I was officially back at work. And I only went on LinkedIn specifically for my one client on predetermined days for a very specific task set. I kept focused because it is way too easy for my little eyes to catch interesting things and then be sucked into a 3-hour deep dive. And that's not what I needed or wanted. And you know what? It's all okay. I know I have my email list. I have you, my lovely listener, and you guys are loyal. The social media stuff will pick back up because there are algorithms to play with, right? But it was an intentional decision that I made. I made it earlier in the fall because I knew I'd have to mentally come to terms with it. It feels odd as someone who has a course on using social media, who manages social media for some of her clients, to stop using social media. It was counterintuitive in some ways, but I also know and I knew that I needed a break. So I prioritized myself and my family, and I stuck to it. So when I take all of this, the planning, the focus, the priorities, the boundaries, and I roll it around in my little head, what it all boils down to is one thing at a time. One thing today or this week that's going to help me reach those goals. One thing that is in keeping with me making money to pay my bills and myself. One thing to work on my relationship with my clients and to create relationship with my potential clients. One thing to sell my existing courses. Not everything or even loads of things all at once. Just one thing. And I hope that you know you are still Superwoman, even if you don't have a list of things checked off. The Superwoman aspect really comes into effect when you check off that one thing that makes sense to your larger picture, including taking care of yourself. Okay, that's it for today. Until next week, my friend, I hope you have a fan-freaking-tastic rest of your day. Thanks so much for listening this week. I invite you to sign up for my email list or join me in the Connections Coffee and Confidence community on Facebook. Those are the people who get first dibs on any classes or products I create, and they benefit from the extras I can't get into in a podcast format. I also lovingly request that if you've enjoyed this podcast, you leave a review on Apple. When I see a new review, I get so excited I almost spill my cappuccino froth. Almost. And if you're a woman entrepreneur who's ready to get serious about using the power of communications to grow your business, send me an email at janice@janicefogarty.com. All my details are in the show notes. Thank you again for listening today, and I'll chat with you again next week.